What's up again, guys? Yeah, it's me, your friendly neighborhood Dovahkiin, and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access. And before we begin, be sure to hit on the subscribe button for more great videos. Okay, now we're back up and running on the new patch 4. And before we proceed with our playthrough, like what I did when patch 3 dropped, obviously, this is gonna be a review on it. The highlight of this patch is the new Druid class. However, I will not feature that and play as a Druid. This series will naturally continue on where we left off. But of course, I will instead feature the major changes in comparison with my playthrough. Because as you know, despite the save-breaking patches, patch 3 and this 4th one, I followed pretty much the same path since the first version of Early Access. Anyway, speaking of patch 3, my review on it was back in episode 15 at the Goblin Camp. Alright, first are the notable quality of life improvements. Now, you can play with weighted/loaded dice, which aims to smooth out the extremes of the rolling bell curve that might otherwise see you roll a series of unlucky natural ones or all too lucky D20s in a row. In short, turn this on if you want to avoid bad luck. But of course, that's for noobs, and I prefer purity, so mine is turned off. Now, there's an option to sort containers. This is especially helpful with your traveler's chest back at the campsite. Next is the arrangement of your characters in the inventory window. Before, this was statically based on your companion's order of recruitment. So if you want to rearrange it, you have to painstakingly dismiss, then re-recruit your characters. Now, the inventory order automatically follows your arrangement in the portrait panel at the bottom left corner. Anyway, I'm sure you're eyeing on the amount of gold that I have. I've already explained how to do this back in episode 10 at the Risen Road, and in my other vids as well. Mind you, technically, this is not an exploit, but rather, you need skill to pull it off. And if you want to be a pro on it, watch that vid. Okay, now let's go to the changes arranged based on when they appeared in my series. First, in my pilot episode, Character Creation. My High Elf Wizard is no longer bald. The new hair 37 is some sort of a 1-month-old buzz cut, which perfectly resembles what I have in real life. And let's face it, after nearly 20 episodes of my playthrough, naturally, his hair has to grow at some point, right? By the way, I still don't like the fact that elves lack facial hair. Next is in episode 3, when I was gathering my companions at the Ravaged Beach. After saving Lae'zel from the tieflings to recruit her, of which she eventually reaches level 2, you can no longer pick a fighter class passive for her. The past choices were archery, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, protection, and 2-weapon fighting style. I formerly picked defense for her, by the way, but now she defaults to great weapon fighting, which if you do the math is actually quite decent, especially if you're gonna use 2d6 weapons for her like great swords and mauls. Alright, now in episode 5 after entering the Druid Grove and checking out the refugees in the Hollow. The Rain Dancer staff, which you can buy from Aaron, is now bugged. It ain't fucking working anymore, cause the Create Water spell doesn't get added to your hotbar. It's even absent from your spellbook. Now there's a new quest, Find Your Belongings, and this involves the Tiefling Kids. After your first interaction with Mattis, the junk merchant, Sylphie, the other kid, will pickpocket a random item out of your bag. Mattis will then advise you to seek help from Mole to find your stolen stuff, which is obviously a scam. From there on out, every time you deal with Mattis, Sylphie will rob you, unless you catch him red-handed by a successful skill check, of which he'll confess and give up on stealing your stuff. Anyhow, this quest ends with Mole. That is of course once you get access to the Tiefling hideout, after saving the other kid, forgot his fucking name by the way, from the Harpies. Inside the secluded chamber where Zevlor is, you can pickpocket these fantastic pair of gloves from him. You just have to be creative with the character select function in order to distract the other Tiefling. Anyway, I equipped this one on Shadow. Next is in episode 6, when I was dabbling with the matters at the Inner Grove. Okay, Volo no longer appears in the Druid Grove. Your first encounter with him will already be at the Goblin Camp. Inside the Emerald Grove, you can no longer lockpick Kogha's chest. Lockpicking impossible. Even if you pickpocketed the key from her, it still won't open. Now on Neri. Before, I killed her, cause after hearing that you have a tadpole in your head, she'll poison you to death without much thought. In this new patch, however, she was more forgiving, and will most likely not poison you outright, so I spared her. I think this has something to do with the new Druid class. Maybe she needs to play a role as one of your mentors or something. Alright, now in episode 8, at the Blighted Village and its outskirts. First on attitude exploits, there are none anymore. Repeatedly petting Scratch the dog no longer gives you Shadow, Gale, and Will's approvals. Albeit this does not appear in episode 8 but much later, same as with repetitively drinking from the well near Auntie Ethel's tea house, as per Lae'zel's approval that is. This next one is not actually a change, but a rather something I missed to feature in this series. By using an anvil, you can combine the shaft and head of a broken spear, which you can get from Edwin, the Dead True Soul, and the Owlbear Mother respectively, to craft the Vision of the Absolute. Now, as opposed to my previous playthrough, getting to level 4 in this new patch was much faster. In fact, just after defeating the goblins and rescuing the gnome at the windmill, my squad already turned level 4. And of course, I did the same build for all my characters except for Shadow, that is. So let me discuss my new build on her in detail. As you know, Shadow was arguably the worst ability point spread of all the companions. For her ability improvement feat, instead of putting points on both SDR and Wiz, I dropped it all on Wiz. By the way, you need not raise her survivability by picking defensive or armor-related feats. Because back in episode 8, I've already shown how to get her AC to an insane amount of 27. So watch that vid if you want to know how. Anyway, going back to ability improvements. Putting those 2 points into Wiz will boost her 2 best damaging spells, Guiding Bolt and Inflict Wounds. As per her melee weapon attacks, which relies on SDR, just pop a pot of Hill Giant Strength in combat. On gear, she can now equip a metal helmet, as it's no longer classified as heavy armor. Now, it's medium. And instead of a short bow, use a light crossbow on her, cause its damage was fixed in this patch. Before, it used to output only 1d4 damage. Now, it rightfully does 1d8. Anyhow, I'm not sure if this is still a bug or it was now intended, but at the same time my squad turned level 4, the buff of the Idol of Sylvanus stopped working as well. Next is in episode 9, at the Whispering Depths, while working on the Search the Cellar quest. In patch 3, the fight with the Undead Guardians, reanimating from caskets, of which I refer to as the Undead Tag, became uninterruptible. The reanimating script will not stop until all 7 Guardians have awoken. However, in this new patch, it reverted back to what it was like before. So again, so as not to break the script and optimize kill EXP, don't kill the newly reanimated, but the ones who woke them up instead. Okay, now let's jump to episode 12, during the encounter with the Gith patrol at the edge of the Risen Road. And this is just amazing. After wiping out the Githyanki, you'll find out that Gith weapons have now been added to the game, and all of them are +1s. Next is in episode 13, at the Putrid Bog, aka the Sunlit Wetlands. As I've mentioned earlier, Lae'zel's attitude exploit, as per the well is concerned, no longer works. But besides that, even though Ethel is out of the picture, drinking from it now will still give you the nauseated status, after a long rest, that is. So you have to take another long rest to remove the debuff, which made this feature more of a chore than a benefit. Alright, now in episode 14, when I was dealing with Auntie Ethel to save Mayrina. Inside the overgrown tunnel, you no longer need to use objects to block the vents that produce the noxious fumes. You can simply blaze them into oblivion with any manner of fire. And lastly, in episode 15 at the Goblin Camp, the same vid that I mentioned earlier in regards to my patch 3 review. I'm not certain if this is a bug, but the fucking owlbear cub hasn't shown up in my campsite yet, although I did the same procedure as before. I played in one chicken chase, invited the cub to my camp, then persuaded Crola to hand it over to me. After a few long rests, it's still a no-show, and I doubt that it will after the events of this vid. But I don't want to hassle myself anymore by testing the permutations of this scenario. And as far as this series is concerned, I was able to feature it present in my camp anyway. So just fuck the bug and let's just leave it be. Overall, starting a new game on patch 4 was a blast. Besides the druids, this patch sheds a new light on this game, literally. By that, I mean the new lighting effects of the cutscenes are just stunning. So before we go back to my playthrough, let me showcase what happens when you cast the Speak with the Dead spell in this patch.
The corpse regards you lifelessly.
What? My children? God. Knowles, I was careless. The pact power. Fallen Lady Zariel. Fear to survive.
The spell's power wanes. You can ask no more questions.
Alright, finally back to my playthrough. In the previous vid, we decimated the second goblin leader, Priestess Gut, and practically cleared the entire sanctum of goblins. Today, we're facing the last leader, the hobgoblin, Jor Ragzlin. And just watch how I set this up, via again, utilizing my character select tactic.
Fronti nulla fides. Sugon al sukok, utashokek dor. I command you, corpse, speak, reveal truth to the absolute. Nothing must be reading it wrong. Suga no Shukok.
The hobgoblin turns to you, and the parasite squirms in your skull. You taste the ale on his tongue and the bile in his soul.
If it isn't another true soul.
He doesn't speak his next words, yet they still rattle your skull from within.
You ever talk to a dead squid? Now's your chance. Found the squiddy near that tentacle ship. Absolute wants to know who killed it and ran off. And who better to tell us than the corpse? Heretic!
I hope I can follow my scent back to camp.
No, Star's not gonna do the final blow. Shadow will do the honors, to show you the massive damage of inflict wounds. And that is how you make things easy.
Taken a great interest in the Nautiloid's passengers, it would seem. All the more reason to keep our condition private. A hunter wants only one of three things from its prey: to know what it knows, to take what it carries, or to sever its head. Whichever the Absolute wants, let's not give it the chance.
This is actually a good weapon, but sadly, no one in my squad needs it, so it's just gonna be a part of my collection. Okay, let's enter the treasure room to get the last notable item in this place. By the way, this vault opens up with any of the 3 keys dropped by the goblin leaders.
Something like Amulet is really god-touched. Gale would want to see it.
So this amulet is an artifact as well. Anyhow, this is the description of the spell. And take note, if your target is with Elven bloodline, Fey ancestry to be exact, he will be immune to its sleep effect. Alright, we're back at the campsite, and Will has something to say, so let's hear him out.
I know you've got questions, but let me ask you one first. You ever want something so bad, you'd stop at nothing to get it? Then I reckon you'll understand. Spike and his goblin cronies torched the whole god's damned village. The bugger gouged out my eye and left us all to burn. I vowed to the hells and the heavens that I'd make him pay. So rose a woman from the town's ashes. She called herself Mizora. My soul shivered as soon as her lips touched my ears. She promised I'd have my revenge. Mizora would forge me into a hero. I'd have the power to slay my every enemy, save their every victim. All in exchange for my endless devotion. She only revealed her true form after I'd said yes. A Cambion. Half human, half devil. You were right about the fake eye. It's a sending stone. Mizora can call on me whenever she wishes. Raphael, Mizora, the devil's game has but one end. My soul is now hers, in this life and beyond. The flames and fury of the 9 hells themselves. She showed me how to conjure fire and to command beasts. The more I craved, the more she promised. Balls of fire, festering clouds. I went from spoiled brat to savior. My way of avenging every blameless life taken. Slay enough monsters, save enough villages, and there could be peace. I reckon you know the answer. There is no path to peace through the Hells, though I searched long for it. I told Mizora I wanted out. We were still arguing when the Squiddy snatched us both. After the crash, goblins plucked her from her pod and... well, I reckon you know the rest. I free her, and she frees me. Mizora demanded a price I was unwilling to pay. One I won't speak of. Not now, and not here. The bargain is void if she's killed, near as I can tell. A nigh impossible task, even for the blade. Thank you. Your loyalty means more than the whole of the realm's riches. Onward, then, and may we be free from the devils that might bind us.
You recall Raphael's infernal smirk, his goading voice.
And the devils that already do.
In the last episode, I found his eye after killing Torturer Spike, and though he said something about it, he doesn't want it back. So be it. Anyway, the decimation of the 3 goblin leaders means that we have saved the refugees. So let's go back to the grove and be treated with a hero's welcome.
It's time, everyone. Let's go.
Right.
A scout just reported. The goblins' leadership has been decimated. We might escape this place yet. I took a collection from all of us. It isn't much, but you've earned it. It's not enough, but it's all we have. No armies at our heels. Amazing. We can finally leave, but perhaps we need not speak of farewells. We'll join your camp tonight to celebrate if you'll have us. My people are ready to leave when you are. Excellent. Lead the way.
If we get separated or need to break camp fast,
Let's see what reward they
find
gave
the
me.
river and follow it downstream.
We're leaving. We did it. Now. Come on.
This is nice. When you heal, you get healed as well. And naturally, this one will also go to Shadow. She gets most of the good stuff anyway.
Kiss.
Hold still.
Mattis, this is
I'll kiss you when you
Now
stop.
she looks like a druid.
No, there's collectors in the city. They'll pay good coin for it, I swear. Yes.
Okay,
you are.
let's find Halsin.
You took it upon yourself to undertake the Rite of Thorns. I ought to exile you from this place. Forever. Instead, I shall listen to the explanation that you owe me.
I owe you nothing. Goblins swarmed us like roaches while you stumbled after the past. You chose to abandon us. I chose to protect us.
Silence! The rite has been ended. I will allow you to stay, but consider yourself a novice anew. You have forgotten the ways of the Druids, our place in the natural order. You shall learn it all once again, right here. Backslide, and nature's fury will crush you.
As you wish, Master Halsin.
A misjudgment. One that should weigh heavily upon her. But the Grove still needs her passion. You will soon see why. But enough of that for now. I owe you my thanks. The Grove stands. Nature prevails. And again, I am in your debt. Speak to Wrath. He will reward you for your efforts. Soon. First, I must set matters to rights in the Grove. And you should celebrate your victory. After being dormant for so long, your infection is unlikely to produce new symptoms spontaneously. Tomorrow morning, we shall discuss what is to come. Rest, heal, celebrate if you wish, mourn if you must. Come morning, we shall discuss delivering you from your parasite.
Kagha also works for the Shadow Druids, and if only I could pursue both quest lines, I'd expose her with the evidence that I hold, and have her executed by Halsin for treason.
You've done it. You brought Halsin back. Thank you. No, thanks is not enough. May Sylvanas bless you for all your days. I cannot imagine taking on a camp full of goblins was a simple task. To be expected. I'm glad you survived intact. Let me show you on your map where you can find the cache. Take this rune. You'll need it. Place it among the pedestals inside our library. When the wolf glows brightest, everything in the vault below will be yours.
Before we access the hidden vault and collect our reward, let's have a quick chat with Nettie. Remember what I said about her earlier? In this Patch's playthrough, I didn't kill her.
Blessed day. I was worried I'd never see Master Halsin again. You kept your word. Thank you. Ha! Look, I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do when you told me about that tadpole. I don't know if I can ever restore Sylvanas' peace to this place, but I'll have the chance. Thanks to you.
Glaive the Druid's notebook mentioned. Its owner thought it was cursed.
Alright, these are the 3 notable items that I just picked up. And now, we can finally go back to the campsite and have a hell of a party.
As you approach the camp, you hear the sound of a celebration in full swing.
I hope you'll pardon them. They meant to wait for you. But it's been some time since they've had cause to celebrate. I'm glad to see they haven't forgotten how. Will you join them? I suppose we could at that. I came out here to think, plan out our next steps. But you're right. The road will still be there in the morning. Come then. I hope you'll forgive the pageantry, a custom we developed in Avernus. The sky there is utterly black. We took to filling it with stars of our own, to think of better nights in brighter places.
Try not to get too close, Cal.
Yes. Remember what happened last time?
Nights such as this one, with a light for every life you've saved. Yes. Volo also wished to show his appreciation.
The glimmering glow of victory's light, like storms in Shah's black skirt of night, casts shrines to which we all might pray. Our terror has been chased away. Say you've wept and begged and fled, a viper's nest, your only bed. You dream of when your babes might say, our terror has been chased away. A band of strangers, strange and banded, arms to arms and sword in handed, did neither trust nor peace betray. Our terror has been chased away. This band, these strangers, stood and fought, and with their blood our futures bought, that we might live to see bright day. Our terror has been chased away. Our terror, yes, our pain and longing, gone, replaced with sweet belonging. And now a path by God's away. Our terror has been chased away. What secret in a hero's heart unlocks great valor's stellar start? A gift that gives us leave to say, our terror has been chased away. We raise our glasses, hearts and souls, our very lives to those we owe. For though they could have left the fray, their honor was not chased away.
That's my girl.
Toddlers are easier to please than you lot.
You know, I never pictured myself as a hero. Never thought I'd be the one they'd toast for saving so many lives. And now that I'm here, I hate it. This is awful. True. That was fun. Still, I would have liked more for my trouble than a pat on the head and vinegar for wine. By all means, go and enjoy yourself. I'll be here, waiting for the sunrise.
I have seen the Kithraki tear a screaming Nyogi's legs from its belly to fashion into blades. Yet they could not match your nerve today. It was enough to drive me to madness. I smell their blood on you still. I smell your sweat. I mean to taste it. Yes, sex. A night such as this calls for flesh to feast on, and I have chosen the sweetest. Yes, when you lie down for the night, I will come, and I will take what is mine.
Everyone seems to be in high spirits. I saw you with Lae'zel. You two looked cozy. Far be it from me to judge. Blood must still be running a little hot after everything. Strange. You know who I never thought I'd find myself caring for? Your words, not mine. But not what I mean. I mean tieflings. Never gave them much thought. Certainly not that bunch in the grove. Yet we came through for them. We saved their lives. Odd. That's more easily said by some than others. But nobody's here to debate right from wrong. Share a bottle with me? I won't keep you long. I gather you've already made plans with someone for your evening.
Shadowheart says nothing, but the glimmer of interest in her eyes is unmistakable.
Best not keep me waiting. I'd prefer not to entertain myself.
If you watched my third episode, you'll know who I'm gonna spend the night with. Is it gonna be Lae'zel or Shadow? Let's find out, shall we?
The city. Live out here, under the stars.
The buzz of celebration quiets to a soothing hum as you approach your bunk. Though you seek repose, you needn't spend the night alone. With whom will you share a bed? Your heart skips a beat. What treasures might this night bestow?
Gith train relentlessly. We know our bodies inside and out. Let me show you. Close your eyes and submit.
A pause, and then the flicker of a tongue across your neck.
Open. Taste. Good. Lower.
You awake in pain. Your back, your hands, even your tongue ache.
It's time to rise. Dawn is upon us. Time for pleasure has passed. I might take more later should my whims so carry me. Up now. The sun soon rises.
Every breath, every blink proves exhausting. A long day awaits you.
If you picked Shadow, and yes, I tried both, it will not be as steamy as that. it will be romantic to say the least. But unfortunately, that's not my cup of tea at the moment. My main wants to score, so there you go. Anyhow, if you sided with the goblins and raided the grove instead, you can choose to lay with Minthara. And Larian made that scene fully available since the first version of Early Access. So obviously, if you want nudity, side with the goblins.
I trust you celebrated most heartily. Curious. I wonder if the tadpole shares in your suffering the morning after. I'm glad to hear it. You'll need fortitude for what's to come. I promise to help you with your infection. There's almost certainly a cure to be found at Moonrise Towers, but it's complicated. The journey specifically, it's extremely perilous, though it seems you're well accustomed to navigating danger. Wait. There's more you need to know. To get to the towers, you'll need to pass through a terrible place. A cursed place. This curse shrouds everything in shadow. You will not find life, light, or anything natural there. Any who linger are twisted by the curse. They become shadow beings, tormented, dangerous souls. You could go overland, along the Risen Road or through the mountains. Easier at first, but you'll run into the shadow curse eventually. You could also go under. There is a tunnel somewhere in the ruined Temple of Selûne. It leads to Moonrise Towers through the Underdark. Long ago, a man called Ketheric Thorm built a secret stronghold deep down there, before rallying a whole army of Dark Justiciars, Shar worshippers.
Dark Justiciars? I must see for myself.
Aradin and his lot were looking for a way down there. They were promised riches if they retrieved a relic called the Night Song. But I think there's more. From this stronghold, Ketheric's forces could access both the Temple of Selûne and Moonrise Towers. But he was defeated before he could launch an attack. If you can find this place, I'll wager it will reveal a path to Moonrise Towers, bypassing the worst of the Shadow Curse. Anything is preferable to risking the Shadow Curse. I would like to join your camp, if you'll allow me. I can offer my skills, my counsel. I've long sought to return to Moonrise Towers. Unfinished business. It seems our fates have aligned. I've chosen a successor as first druid, Francesca of the High Forest. A bird's already been dispatched to summon her. Wrath has promise, but he has a ways to go yet. He wasn't able to stop Korga by himself. The Grove needs experience and a strong hand. The Grove needs to move beyond the mistakes of the past. What it needs is an unknown quantity. An outsider who can enforce the Oakfather's teachings without bias. This is why I chose Francesca. She will restore simplicity and purity to the Grove in my absence. Contrary to how some think of us, we druids can play politics when necessary. Now, we've quite the journey ahead. Best get started. I advise you start in the Temple of Selûne. If you find the Dark Justiciar's hidden entrance, it could lead you all the way to Moonrise. Indeed, we've quite the journey ahead of us.
And that is all there is for now. Thanks for watching. Also check out other videos from Sabbath Band Philippines and don't forget to subscribe. See you on my next vid. Peace out, y'all.